Tanaiste, on Sunday, public transport users are facing industrial action by hard-pressed bus Eireann workers. This action has arisen, as you know, after 11 long months of deliberations, negotiations and protracted discussions between management, the Labour Court and those very workers. An impasse has now been reached. State subvention, as you know, Tanaiste, is down by about 15% of the company's turnover, cut dramatically under your stewardship, Tanaiste. It's the lowest level of subvention of any major national public bus company in Europe. Now, Tanaiste, workers should not be expected, in my view, to subsidise the cut to the bus Eireann subvention. And I would have thought Labour in government, and most people would have thought Labour in government, would ensure that that didn't happen. You know, Tanaiste, that strike action will cause considerable inconvenience to the travelling public, to members of the public who depend on bus Eireann to get to work, to get to school and indeed to get to college. Tanaiste, the public is shocked with the apparent approval of the Minister that bus Eireann intends to unilaterally impose severe cuts in the pay and conditions of its workforce from Sunday next. Bus Eireann has outlined that it intends to target about 9 million of its 20 million savings target from the pay and conditions of its workforce. Bus Eireann needs to make savings, but the savings sought, in my view, weigh far too heavily on the workers who earn on average about 33,000 a year. They have families, Tanaiste. They have mortgages. And like many people in society, they're struggling. The Labour Court has stated that the very viability of the transport operator is under threat if something isn't done. And that's accepted on this side of the House. Now, Tanaiste, we know that Fine Gael want to privatise our public transport service, of which bus Eireann is a constituent part of that. Where does the Labour Party stand on the privatisation of bus Eireann? Now, it is estimated, Tanaiste, that about 114,000 students, secondary and indeed college-going students, will be affected if the dispute spreads to the school transport network. Now, that should bring into stark focus for the government the seriousness of this particular issue, and that action needs to be taken by you and government. So, Tanaiste, just a couple of very quick questions. Where do you stand on this particular issue? Where does the government stand on this issue? Does the government have a strategy to ensure that the public transport network will not let down those who cannot afford private transportation during this impasse? And does the government intend to intervene between management and staff to try and avoid a strike in the first instance?
Thank you, Deputy. Tanaiste.
Cancórla, bus Eireann is in a very difficult financial position. It has incurred accumulated losses of €27 million in the last 5 years, a position which is unsustainable and which places the viability of the company at risk. According to the Labour Court and the trade union's own independent financial assessors, bus Eireann is in a precarious financial situation with the very viability of the company under threat. According to the Labour Court, significant reductions in the company's cost base, including payroll costs, are essential to ensure its future and protect employment within the company. The issues involved have been the subject of deliberations for 11 months and have been the subject of a Labour Court adjudication. Following this adjudication, there was further engagement with the Labour Relations Commission. The future of the company needs to be secured for the public who depend on its services and for the benefit of its employees. Bus Eireann runs commercial expressway services, which are currently loss-making, and legally the state cannot support these services. The viability of these services can only be secured if these savings are achieved. Bus Eireann has confirmed to Ministers Varadkar and Kelly that the company remains open to engaging with the unions, and I very much hope that the management and the unions use the period between now and Sunday to engage in further dialogue which can ensure that the necessary savings are introduced and the provision of bus services for the public are protected.
Thanks very much, Tanaiste. You've set out the company position. One would have thought that the Labour Party in government would have looked at the workers' situation in this. And it's all right to talk about the Labour Court and the Labour Relations Commission. But effectively what's being imposed on the workers unilaterally here, Minister, those on an average of 33,000 a year are being asked to take a hit of €3,000. That's a phenomenal amount, Tanaiste, from the pay packets of these individuals and their families. It's not bonus pay. It's all right to talk about core pay and talk about overtime and time and a half and all that goes with it. But Tanaiste, a 3,000 cut to the core pay of these individuals is not sustainable. So do you want to put more people into hock by saying we got to protect the company? Go back and fight the case at government for increased subvention. If you, as a Labour Party, believe in public service obligation, believe in the principle of an appropriate transport network. So, we know where Fine Gael stands. They look after the people over 100,000. I would have thought that the Labour Party in government would look after those on €30,000 a year. But you seem to have just bought the company line. You're prepared to come in here and trot it out, with no reference whatsoever to the workers. You look across the line of Labour people here. Many of them have worked as trade union officers.
Deputy, would you put your question, please?
That you're not prepared to fight for a greater level of investment for the company to ensure that it can continue to provide a public transport service.
This government is committed to the public transport service. Public. And that is why we want to keep Bus Éireann in existence. Now, do you understand that? The viability of the company is at risk. The viability. No, please listen to the answer. Listen to the answer.
Would you quieten down, please? Quieten down. I'd like to hear the answer as well as everybody else. Yeah. We've 1 minute to reply.
The viability of Bus Éireann is at risk. It's losing money. It has lost 27 million in the last 5 years, and that cannot continue. And if Bus Éireann does not continue to exist, then the people who work in it won't have jobs in it. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect the company, the services it provides, and the employment that it provides to those who work in it. In order to do that, the company has to be secured. This has been the subject of discussion and negotiation for 11 months. It is now the subject of a Labour Court recommendation. It is what the company is doing is implementing the Labour Court recommendation, which has been the subject of discussion over a long period of time. This is now about the viability of the company. And incidentally, that viability itself, the question of the viability of the company, is itself accepted by the assessors that were put in by the trade unions to look at this. Now, we have a period of time between now and the weekend in which further discussions can take place. The company has made it clear that it is available to have those discussions either directly with the unions or with the assistance of the Labour Court or the Labour Relations Commission. I hope that such discussions will take place. I hope that industrial action can be averted. But we do all need to understand that what is at stake here is the continued existence of Bus Éireann. And you coming in here and crying crocodile tears will be no use to anybody if this company fails and the people in it lose their jobs.